Welcome to HostRight. So we are the hosts, Zach and Eve, and we run a management company across South Wales and Bristol called Stay Right. And this podcast is all about sharing our journey and how we're growing our business very successfully over the last 12 months or just under 12 months. And what we want to do is give as much value as possible and through our journey, hopefully help you on your Airbnb journey. So another episode, Eve. I know you're looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this is my domain today.
What's the topic of the conversation today?
So, we're going to be talking about setting up your SA units. So, all things like interiors, but also the other things that people kind of maybe forget about or don't realise is included in setups. It's not just about nice cushions and things like that. There's more to it. So, we're going to get into it.
If only it was that easy.
I know. Then it wouldn't be such a skill, no joking.
Yeah, I mean... What we've done, I mean, it's crazy to think our kind of setup journey from like the first to like, you know, now setting up the 37th, 8th, 39th, 40th, how much you learn during that process. And I can't wait to kind of like share those journeys or share that journey and what we learned. I think for yourself, like when you think of like an Airbnb setup, where does your mind where does it go straight to?
Yeah, well, I think where it used to go to, I mean, one of the big reasons why I was so excited about starting this business was for this side of it. Like, I love interiors and the thought of being able to just go shopping over and over again to decorate houses, essentially. That's what came to my mind to start with. And that is true, but there's more to it. But yeah, that's what really excited me, and I really enjoyed that side of it. So that always comes to mind. That's the fun part. But there's practical sides to setups, which... like you said, as we've done more and more setups, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, there's more to it than you think when you do your first one and you learn the tips and the tricks to do it efficiently and in order to get good reviews and good bookings, which I guess we'll go into more of.
For sure. We talked about in the last episode, like, disclaimer, I am not the designer in this business. I have no credit at all. If you look at our properties and you're like, wow, they're amazing, absolutely no credit goes to me. It is 100% all of Eve that does that. And even our house, I admit, I am. That's not my forte. You know, stick to your strengths. That's not me. That is not me.
No comment.
No comment. Yeah, she's like, yes.
I'm nodding.
Okay, so what are the 5 most important things in the setup? And we'll get into like the little nitty gritty stuff on how to actually do the setup properly.
Okay, comfort would be the first one. For the guests, obviously, that's what we're talking about.
And what's comfort? Because that's broad. But like, if you think
beds, sofa, dining chairs, think about it being livable. And I think the goal across the board is if someone comes and stays. This is how I always think about it. If someone comes and stays for a week, are they going to be comfortable enough that they think they could stay there for a month or 2 months? Because the goal is always to get repeat guests and also to get long bookings, which often start with little test run bookings. So I always look at it like that. So number one, comfort. If you stayed there for a week, would you be comfortable staying there for another month? So are the beds really comfy? Can you actually relax on the sofa? It's not just like a little pokey thing that looks good. Things like that. Number two, the practical stuff, the stock, the stuff that's in the kitchen cupboards. If you've only got one utensil and one pan, you're not going to want to stay there for a month.
I know, I can relate to that, and I know we can relate. Like, when we go to an Airbnb, the first thing we open is the utensils, and we're like, oh, we're going to have eggs and bacon in the morning. We've got one spatula and one frying pan and one saucepan, and we're like,
yeah, it's
going to have to wash up, and then it's
not a home away from home. So those details, like having stocked utensils, everyone will laugh when they hear this. Anyone that knows me will laugh because I talk about utensils all the time.
It's the first thing you say to a landlord, I will save you money on utensils.
Yeah, they always think I'm like really sad, but it's so important. So those are the things in the cupboards that make it feel like a home. That would be number two. Number three is obviously the look. Like, it does have to look warm, inviting, bright, cozy, all of those things, because obviously the photos are super important for getting bookings, and we'll get more into that. So you've got to be looking at the overall vibe. I use that word a lot, vibe. The vibe that you're creating. How many is that? 3.
That's 2.
That's 3. Comfort, stock.
Stock, yes.
And the vibe, how it looks. Number 4, I would say Obviously, you want to do it on a budget, but not doing it too cheap. You buy cheap, you buy twice. You want this to last. You want it to feel, again, homely. It's not going to feel that way if everything's basically a load of rubbish in there. So be selective with where you save money and where you spend your money.
Yeah.
And number 5 would be...
configuration people?
Yeah, probably like layout and just practicality. And again, it's just thinking of things like, okay, if it sleeps 6 people, is there 6 places for people to sit at the dining table, in the living room, and actually, like, you know, watch a film? So when I'm setting it up, I'm thinking about all of the different scenarios and the different types of people that are going to be staying there, and if it works for them. Yeah,
that's like your standard like occupancy that you're basing off, and then off that, you know, you can't have 4 plates for a 6-bedroom or six guests. You know, it just doesn't work. Okay, so what's the time frame to set up a property? And then we'll get into like the do's and don'ts, because I bet you there's a lot.
Yeah. What I would say on time frame, first of all, is if it's your first one or second one or something, you know, don't underestimate how long that part takes.
We did.
Yeah, I was so excited about that part that I almost didn't really think about it enough.
I believe it took a day to buy all the B&M decor, probably.
Yeah, like it took time because for a few reasons. One, you're not practiced at it, and it sounds really sad, but now my brain is like a catalogue of all the different shops.
Yeah. And
I've got go-to things. You know, we buy the same beds. We know the sofas that work well. I know the utensil set that I buy every time. Those things become faster the longer you're doing setups for. So don't underestimate the first time round. If you're doing your own, you don't have any sort of guidance on it, that it is going to take a bit of time. We now set a time frame of 7 days max to turn a property around and set it up. Sometimes that goes over if there's a delay with the delivery, but on our end we don't take longer than a week. Often it gets done quicker, right? Like 4 days, 5 days.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround.
It's really fast, and that's just because it's planned and it's efficient. So I would say don't underestimate it, but it can be done quickly if you're organised and you kind of know what you're doing and you've done your research if you've not done it before.
Yeah, so talk about, like, let's say I'm a new property. I'm a new landlord. I'm not
new Airbnb.
Yeah, new Airbnb, whatever it may be. And everything's signed up. We're getting ready to go. What would like be a step-by-step process to get live?
Well, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Like the whole kind of process. I mean, the first thing you want to be doing is thinking about everything that needs to be done in that property. So there's a step before furnishing, right, which is the actual property itself. Is it up to a good standard? Is there any maintenance that needs to be done? Are you going to be painting feature walls, which is something that, if you can and you can afford to do it, it's a really good thing to do.
Is it worth it, do you reckon?
It is worth it. It adds an extra dimension. It's more interesting. It also kind of saves you money on other things like artwork, because you've got more interest already. So that's kind of like stage 1, is just like establishing what you've got to work with and what needs to get done to get up to a good level. Hopefully nothing, but often there's little things. Then from there, you're planning out what's going in there. So make sure you measure for the sofa, make sure you measure for your beds and the dining table. Like, get those key things planned. Those are the chunky things that you need to make your decisions on. And I think the quickest way to do a setup is get a full list of everything, right? Like, down to, like, you've seen the spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Every property has a spreadsheet with everything on it.
Literally exactly what to buy. Like, here it is, bang, and it's just tracking. Yeah. It's just incredible.
Yeah, so it means you can literally sit down in one go then and pretty much order everything.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be you. Like, let's say it's like a really high priority one, and we're doing a little bit more design. You can get that together, and then you can delegate that to the team to organise and coordinate.
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely not doing it all.
Yeah, definitely not
myself. Now I'm just coordinating it, and
you wish you were, because you love it, but you
I mean, I love building IKEA furniture, but I'm not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
But it's about getting it live as quickly as possible. But yeah, so that's the next step, is just plan it, take your time with that. If you struggle with the interior side of it, get on Pinterest. I'm Pinterest obsessed. For my own house, I have a board for every single room. Even the pantry has its own Pinterest board, and I think it's awesome for just getting ideas. So if you're not sure, get on there and just search things like, funky living room, modern living room, those kind of things will get you lots of ideas. So do that if you need to. Get planning, get your big items decided, measure up, and then just basically get ordering everything in. Think about your lead times. So the beds normally take longer. So make sure you're ordering the stuff that's going to take a long time.
One thing is like first. Internet as well. Like get that internet sorted because that can take a couple of weeks. And oh my god, it is like that's the one thing. If you don't have that, you want to go live. The guests will kick off, especially in 2023, 2024. Almost. Yeah, I know, crazy. So you're at the ordering all the furniture. You got all that list together, and then that all comes. Yeah,
and then you're just kind of setting it up. You might get some help in for that part, especially to if you're hanging curtains and stuff. You probably want to get some help in unless you're super handy. And then just do that part as quickly as you can. And as you're doing it, think about what those key photos are. What are those key angles that are going to look really awesome in the photos? People always look at me like I'm crazy. I'm stood in the rooms bending down and looking at where the camera angle is going to come from, and then just place things so that they kind of stand out. And less is more, which is one of my sort of key tips, which I'll just sneak in now, is you don't want clutter. So at this stage, it's easy to be like, oh my god, that's not enough. Keep adding more plants and vases, but just get a few big key pieces and kind of be done, because otherwise it just looks like messy, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then the cool thing about this is it's not ready to go live yet, but we would have the listings already done, ready just get the photos and everything in there. Which
plug them in.
Plug them in. Staging, this part. What's the quick tips? What's the thing that really makes those photos stand out? Because I personally think our staging is amazing. We always get so many compliments from even our mentors. Wow, your photos are amazing. The staging is amazing. What's the trick?
The number one trick is have a really good photographer.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much you can do, and I can be in a house that I know, all our properties are obviously great, but there's some that look nicer than others.
Yeah.
But I always have confidence that our photographer is going to make it look great. So I think that makes a world of difference. If I went and took photos on my phone, and that wouldn't look how it looks on the photos. But the thing for staging is just attention to detail and clutter. So no clutter. Don't leave loads of stuff out. Don't have loads just stuff everywhere. Make sure the little things will stand out on the photos. So I go around and inspect the property before the photographer arrives, and I'm literally looking at, is there any labels sticking out on any cushions? Are there any creases in the bedding? Are the curtains completely even both sides of the window? Really meticulous details, which make it go from looking just like a normal house to a professional standard, right? If the curtains are a bit wonky, it just looks a bit normal. But once you get those things perfect, you lay the table and it's measured to perfection on the table. Those are the things where it looks like you've put in the detail, because you have, and it makes a good impression.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said before, it's thinking where the photos are going to be. What's the most important thing? That's so critical. On the photos, what people try to go get their friends to do the photos because they're a photographer, or they go pay ridiculous money. You don't need to do that. It's really important. Your friend may be a photographer, but property photography, even Airbnb photography or short service accommodation, is very specific on what you need. I think we got a great photographer, and the rates are I reckon they're very good for what we get. I mean, amazing. But I know people are paying £250, £300 for a 2-3 bed. It's just, you don't need to do that. So make sure you go find someone, do your research, don't take the first quote. And you're going to have trial and error. We used 3 before we found our one. We finally got there, which is great.
What was that thing that they do?
The
double exposure.
Triple.
Something where basically they take the photos in a couple of different
dark, light, normal, compacted together.
Different exposures, and then they edit and overlap them.
And what we found was the door handle height was perfect. It was if someone knows those two things, just get them to try it. See what their work is. If they don't have any other work, that's a bit of a no-no. But if they've got other ones, just go off that. In worst case, you have to change them in a year if you're not happy with them, or 6 months. Worst case. Okay, cool. So, what's the hardest part about setting it up? Because that's obviously that's that's going through the steps. What when you first started, more so because it's quite easy now. What was like the biggest learning point, the biggest like failure we did?
I didn't plan it. I thought I had it all in my head. I was like, I know what I need to get. And then I'd be in the kitchen checking it over. I'd be like, oh, you don't have a can opener. Right, off to the shops, get a can opener.
I remember one time about the Barry property, someone's like, they had family over and they didn't have a bowl opener, and we had to go over and give them one because we listed it with it, and it was that was hilarious. Yeah,
so it's in the early days. I would be walking around Home Bargains looking for a spatula because I didn't have a spatula yet. So it's just down to knowing where to go and get things and making that efficient. So just plan it.
Yeah.
Like the hard thing is if you don't have a plan and you're just like winging it, randomly choosing things as you go along, you're going to forget stuff. You're going to have too much artwork and not enough pillows because you've not spread out your budget properly, and it's not going to look right in the end. So that's why you plan.
I think as well as like on the planning part is plan for things to go wrong, like deliveries to be missed or having to delay photography or all this kind of stuff. I mean, let's go back to that Barry property when we were going from 4.
I was going to say, do you remember the sofa?
Yeah, I do. I remember. Wait, the sofa?
In the car?
Oh my.
Tell that days. Story.
Well, we bought a sofa from IKEA.
Because the delivery times were really long.
The deliveries were crazy, and we were like, we were on a budget, like we said in the other episode, we spent like £17,000, had to refurb it, not ideal. So we bought a sofa. Mind, Eve had a Citroen C1 at the time.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, she fits everything. We call her Wendy.
Wendy fits everything.
Wendy's amazing.
Anyone that knows us will know Wendy.
I need to post that on social media, yeah. So we bought it. We're like, this is not going to fit. Basically, we somehow got it to fit. And the only way we could get it to fit, because it was packed, is
like in parts.
I was literally like a 95-year-old granny driving at the wheel. I literally did turn. I had to go like, bang, 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 bang. And no one could see me. It was crazy. But the other thing I remember that property was the day before we were setting it up, we were trying to wrap the kitchen because it was a bit older, and we had no idea how to do this, by the way.
We're trying to put a new wrap on the counters.
Yeah, and we gave up. But basically that put us like 3 hours behind schedule, and then we realized that the blinds were so dirty that
the cleaners hadn't done a good job.
Then even and it was so grimy. Long story short, we went to bed at 4:30 a.m. and our photography was booked for 7 a.m. that next day. And we were like, we cannot delay this. The next one was like a week away, and we're like, we have to get it done.
I think the biggest secret of that is that night we finished there at about 3, and we drove the half an hour home, and we were like, where's our house key? And we'd left it at the property because we were obviously so tired and delirious by that point after weeks of that. Drove half an hour back in silence, and this is confession time. We actually slept in the bed, didn't we? We did. At the property. Obviously, we changed the bedding, guys, before anyone stayed there.
But we didn't drive back.
But we slept in the bed because we're like, we can't go back again. Like, we'll be back here again in another hour. So we're like, we just have to get an hour's sleep and wait back up for the photographer. Woke up, made the bed for the photos. Yeah, it was very stressful. But I promise, whoever our first guest was, we changed the bed before. But yeah.
At the time of this episode.
That doesn't happen now.
At the time of this episode, that was literally about a year ago.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. This is about a year ago since we got first run. Yeah. Mad.
So I think all of that basically shows that the first setup doesn't run smooth.
Everything goes wrong.
But if you've got guidance and
listen to this podcast.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, that stuff won't happen to you because you're going to have a list and you're going to plan it out.
And this is the whole point of this. Is like we've gone through the areas. Like if you listen and the other episodes are going to help you not go through these issues. And you're still going to have them, but you can avoid some of these mistakes. So, when it goes wrong, like we've had some experiences of other management companies having it set up, and obviously it was staged horrendously. Talk about that because I think it's a really fitting point. Yeah, because you can do all that, plan it, could be amazing, be so organized, but you've done it completely wrong, and then you're in a bad situation.
Yeah. So all the stuff we've talked about is the kind of practical stuff like getting comfy mattresses and all that stuff, but at the end of the day it does have to look good, and that's where if you're not sure on that stuff, get on Pinterest and it will help you, like I said before. So an example just to show how important that is, we we took on a property, when was it? Like April time? Earlier this year, basically.
I think we took it on in May and then it was ready for April, something like that.
Yeah, April's before me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it was earlier in the year. We took on this apartment, this 2-bed apartment, and it was in a great location. It had parking. There was no reason why it wouldn't do a great job, right? But it had been with a previous management company and not had a single booking in 6 months.
6 months, man.
And they kind of blamed it on the property. There would have been other factors such as revenue management, which we will get into in other episodes, that would have contributed to that. But it looked terrible.
It looked like a granny's, 1950s. Worse.
It had pink walls, and it had those metal bed frames that look kind of like hospital beds, and they don't look very warm, cozy and inviting, and the mattresses were really cheap, really terrible. There's no decor. It didn't look homely, right? It just looked so basic. And
mixed with that property, because that was a
slightly older,
with the kitchen looks very old. So if you have that furniture, it just makes it look run down as well.
It didn't look inviting.
Yeah. By the way, this place overlooks the water. It is immaculate.
Nice.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah. It's really nice. So we took it on and we then refurnished it, obviously, for our client, and it does really, really well now.
Painted the walls all white as well.
Yeah, so obviously we got rid of the pink and we just gutted the whole thing.
Yeah,
we got rid of everything. We started again. Went for a nice sort of nautical theme in there because it looks out over the water.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit skeptical on that. This shows how I do not have a taste, because it's one of our best performing properties. And I was like, I don't know about this, man. I'm not vibing it. I was wrong.
Trust me.
This is why I don't get involved.
Because it just looks fresh and clean.
It does.
We've got a blue velvet sofa bed. We've got armchairs. We've got nice throws in there.
Dining table, that photo.
Yeah,
it's on our website.
Yeah, really nice. I laid the table. It was all, I got with blue plates and everything, so it was all kind of went together really nicely. My favourite thing in there was a little lamp in the shape of a lighthouse. It looks really cute.
Yeah.
Just those little touches that make it look like you've put in the details, which give the impression that you're then going to be a great host.
Yeah, and that property was a rent-to-rent that we manage on behalf of an investor, and I can't remember the rent. I think it was $950 or something. But that has every single month made close, if not £1,000-ish profit for that investor, which is mad. That is passive as all passive can be for that person. They are literally they've never even seen it. They they don't really communicate with us. They're just happy days. And that is also at 85% occupancy in one of our best booked ones. So it goes to show how important setting up and staging that property is, and also what can happen if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah.
So this is really, I think this is a perfect point to pivot to this, because talking about staging it wrong and right, where should the money be spent? And what would be a normal, if you would estimate what we would spend on a 2-bed, 3-bed, 4-bed? About that.
So 2-bed, you're going to be looking at about 3.5 to 4. And then it sort of goes up in stages from that. I think,
and you can obviously spend more if you want to be.
That's the thing, right? I think the key thing to remember with that and with your budget, when you're deciding your budget, think of a couple of things. First of all, how nice is the property, and how nice does it have the potential to look? Because if it's a little bit more basic, you're going to be kind of aiming it towards contractors. There's no point spending an extra £1,000 on rugs and lovely pillows that honestly they're just going to get stained and ruined, and it's a waste of money in that property. But if you have a luxury property which you know is in a good area and you can charge higher rates for it and it's going to appeal to that market, then that's where it's worth investing more. So look at that when you're deciding on your budget, and then how you kind of split that money up. Well, first of all, you've got to prioritize, like I said earlier, right? You've got to prioritize good beds, a good sofa, a good dining table. It doesn't have to be really expensive, but it just has to be comfy. The beds, we always go for kind of pocket sprung mattresses. Zip and link beds is a big one, obviously. Zip and link beds that could be singles or king beds. Look, you give them a Google if you're not sure on them, and
coffee machines,
and they will come up. So the first thing is to make sure that you've got good quality in those key items. Then you want to obviously focus on like stock in the kitchen. So don't scrimp on things like mugs and plates. Like don't have 2 plates for 4 people.
Don't go get 6 quid mugs. As well.
Yeah, yeah. Like have a think about, you know, if you're staying there, how often are you having to wash up because you've only got like so many plates in the cupboard. So think of those things. Get it nice and stocked up. But remember, it doesn't have to be the fanciest thing. It can be a £2 IKEA mug.
This is where you can get really cheap.
Yeah, like you can be savvy with it. If you go to like B&M, they've got really cool, funky designed mugs, plates, serving dishes, and they're all cheap. But that stuff works really well because it's unique and it kind of stands out. Or you go a bit more basic, like IKEA vibes.
And they're going to get replaced. Like they're the things that get churned. Like
yeah, you don't want to invest loads of money in them because no one's seeing them. Like as long as they're nice, don't. But one thing on this: do not get the cheapest cutlery, the scratchy kind of school dinner cutlery, because again, is someone going to want to use that for months at a time? No. So level up a little bit on the cutlery is something that I've
just get sporks all the way. Just 10 sporks. Let's go.
So put your money there and make sure you've got a nice stocked kitchen. So you've got your comfort, your key items, you've got your well stocked kitchen, and then you want to think about your TV, your coffee machine. Please get a 4-slice toaster. Another pet hate of mine.
Oh, that's one we hate. So it goes back to the egg and bacon.
Yeah,
we're cooking on one pan, and then we're like,
taking
here's
it in turns.
Yours, babe.
Yeah,
here's your toast, and then I'll get mine now. It's like your bacon just sitting on the side, getting all crispy. Your eggs
going cold,
and you wake up and you start your first day upset. And you don't want that.
Yeah,
I'm painting that picture for you guys. You don't want that.
No, you don't want a queue for the toaster. So
yeah, definitely.
Like silly things like that, and it doesn't have to be expensive. I often get I think our toaster that we get costs £30. So those things don't have to cost a lot, but just think about the practical elements when you're getting them. And then lastly, and arguably like one of the most important bits is the decor. So give yourself a good chunk of that. That stuff will cost you more than you think. So plan it into your budget from the start, because you don't want to get to the end and have no money to make it look warm and cozy.
What do you normally budget for like a 2-bed? That's
300 to 400 on that.
Yeah.
At least.
What's decor consist of, just to make sure everyone understands?
Yeah,
that?
So like pillows for the sofas, pillows for the bed. Don't put one dress pillow on the bed.
No.
I put at least 3, if not 4 or 6 on the beds.
And on the sofa as well. Yeah.
And obviously on the sofa, you don't want like one flat pillow. Don't get the £2 pillow. Get the £8 pillow. It will make a really big difference. And again, you don't have to overspend to get those correct items. You just have to plan and proportion your money out properly, right?
Do you know one thing I just pulled up? One thing that you do really well is that you're not afraid to overbuy. So you'll go buy 4 or 5 things at your stage, and then you just go refund them or get someone else.
Sometimes if I'm not sure.
Exactly, yeah.
If I'm not sure on what's going to work. But yeah, and then there's bits where you can be more clever. So often our bedside tables cost £10.
Yeah.
And I'll spend more.
Or we don't have bedside tables.
Yeah, sometimes. But I would spend more money on the pillows and the bedside table, just as an example of a decision, because the bedside table is functioning as long as it's there, right? And it looks nice and it's part of the design. £100 bedside table versus £10 not going to make a difference. But no colourful, warm, cosy looking pillows on the bed versus, or really cheap flat ones versus some nice pillows that look really homely. That's the stuff that makes a difference. So you can see, as an example, that's how you kind of split the money up.
Yeah. 100%. Hey, so if we thought about like the shops that you have to buy off, where's the avoids and where the go is for like the best places to go buy stuff? Because there's places that people go like the Range or IKEA, but some of them are quite overrated and quite expensive.
Yeah, I would say you don't need IKEA as much as you think you do.
What's your top 3?
Yeah, top 3 to go to would be
Amazon counts as well if you want.
Yeah, well, that throws a spanner in that.
Good old Amazon.
When I think of like my go-to list, it would be Argos. Argos is amazing. They do so much fast delivery. And IKEA is also good for some stuff, but it's overrated. Don't buy loads of IKEA furniture. And probably Amazon, because it's just great for all the little things. My cutlery, my utensil sets from Amazon, which I love.
I didn't get B&M in there.
And then B&M in the Range for decor.
Yeah.
And Dunelm if you're getting a bit bougie.
Yeah, so.
What would you say are the things, based on going off of that, what would you say are the things that people think they need to spend loads of money on, but they actually don't?
Places where they think they need to spend the most money on.
Like things they might buy.
Beds is always one where they panic. The other thing is they think they need to buy like wardrobes and like dressing
Big
tables
bulky furniture.
like we've had, again, this is a great example of a property not being set up. It was a 4-bedroom, and by the time that they contacted us to manage it, they're like, yeah, we've already bought this set of 4 double beds and 4 wardrobes. I'm like, oh, really? How much did that cost? $800 each. And I was like, such a that was like 1,600 quid that we could have made that place better. But because of that, we had to really budget towards that.
Yeah. But again, because they spent all that money on wardrobes that they didn't need, they didn't have any budget for decor, for pillows.
Oh yeah.
So then it doesn't look as good. So
we could budget a place and get it better than someone spending £5,000 or £6,000 for 4,000, and that is like, we are so confident that no one will beat out this in prices.
Yeah.
This is actually a cool story. So we took over. It's a cool and bad story. We took over a block, and basically the other management company spent a fortune on the furniture. I think it was like $6,000 an apartment for a 2-bedroom, and we went in there, and we were like, it almost broke. It definitely broke his heart. I felt a bit bad for the person because there was furniture there that was expensive IKEA stuff, which
really expensive.
It looked good, the furniture, but then there was no artwork, no decor, nothing,
pillows.
And it was they're amazing apartments, and we were just sitting there like, we sat there, and I remember this. We reflected, going like, peed off. Like, we were like, God, imagine we set this up where this would be.
So cool.
It looks so amazing. We get feature wall there, we'll get decor here, we'll get paintings up, we get some cool things.
Yeah.
And it's just so important. Like, just take a second to think about what you're buying, and don't go off other people's guidance. Sometimes, obviously, go off people that are there, that have done it. But some people just think you need to do stuff and you just don't need to.
Yeah. They had loads of big, bulky, expensive furniture, and that's the stuff to avoid, basically, isn't it? And I think the key message from all of that and those examples, as well as like my example with the bedside table and pillows, spend more on the pillows, is about just balancing your money, which is why get that spreadsheet up, put the exact amounts in and see where your money's going, and see where you can then save money to make sure you've got enough for everything you need. Don't go buy loads of furniture, build it all, and then have nothing left and then regret it. Yeah,
so that's really good. So we've obviously covered like what to buy, what to purchase, stages, talking about like once you've scaled, let's say you got a couple more, let's say you're maybe remote, how do you do remote setups? Because we're not doing setups anymore. Like, what do you?
Not physically.
Yeah, not physically anymore. So, how do we do that, Eve? I know, but I'm asking you.
Do you know? Yeah. So I think I'm still involved. Obviously, I plan it all. I choose everything. I coordinate it all. I then inspect everything before photos. I still do all of that. But actually getting it done and getting everything in there, I've got a team that does that now. So it just comes down to ordering things, coordinating those orders, trying to get them all to arrive at the same time, or roughly. So, you can kind of have a team member there receiving everything, getting everything unpacked. And it kind of just comes down to training your team, and obviously having someone that knows the drill with that, teaching them sort of where things go. And then obviously having a really trustworthy sort of maintenance team member, someone that you bring in to hang artwork up and build the IKEA furniture and put the sofa together, all those things. So it's kind of just down to delegating and organising that. Don't spread it out too much. Try and be quite efficient. So I try to get everything in, everything unpacked, everything built. Then our private waste collection guy comes and collects all the cardboard boxes, because there's always a whole room full of cardboard. So now we've got everything.
Especially blocks.
Yeah, everything's away. All the rubbish is gone. Everything's built. Then we get the cleaners in. Give it a nice deep clean. It gets a bit messy during setup. Clean it all up. And then I go in and just stage it. So are the pillows in the right place? Have we got the right plants? And then if there's any gaps, we fill them. But there's not really, because we obviously plan it. Yeah. So that's how it goes, and that's how we get to do it so quick, because all of that's kind of happening at the same time.
And then photos are done, and then boosh, it's live. And really quick hack tip: get the listings done beforehand. Like I said, Airbnb takes 24 hours. So if you list it, let's say today, right now, it won't go live until 24 hours from when you publish it. So what I always, or not what I, but what the team does, is we list like photos of a different property, and then we then publish it because you need photos, and then you just swap it out, and then saves you 24 hours. It's really, you think it's a small thing, but it's really, really good. The other kind of important thing we didn't touch on was like fire safety stuff as well. So if you're in England, it's different. There's different fire safety stuff you need to get, but obviously we're in Wales, so you need to get a fire safety certificate done. Funnily enough, I actually spoke to someone today, and they got advised by someone that they know to do the fire safety themselves. Personally, what we've been advised is not to do that, because from my understanding, the liability goes straight onto you with that, and you just don't want that at all. So always pay for it. Never get the first quote. You can negotiate that, talk about your growth, and you can get a really good rate that isn't going to take you to the bank, because it can be quite expensive, especially now where it's kind of mandatory. And they're making it. It's a good business to get into if you want to get into that right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely one of the other things you want to get done before you launch. And then there's like a few other hidden things, like lock boxes.
Oh yeah,
like first aid kit. Maybe if you've got some spare batteries, some spare light bulbs. What I tend to do is, if I know I need one light bulb for a lamp, I just buy the whole pack and leave the whole pack there, and then you just know that it's kind of got everything it needs. So yeah, there's a few little kind of practical bits like that to get done too. They can just put them all on the list. If they're on the list, they'll get done. That's the
Do you know what? It's actually like a quick little second is on the consumables that we offer, like as part of the staging. Just like the little shampoos, conditioners.
Yeah, you want to have all of that there for the staging. So nice towels rolled up neatly on the bed with nice mini shampoos and body washes and things like that.
Yeah.
Resting neatly. And also making sure, this is kind of a tiny tip, but I think it's a really important one. We always get a set of 3 jars to put on the side in the kitchen for the cleaning team to put milk, sugar, biscuits, coffee pods, tea bags in. I get clear jars because then when you stock those up for the photos, people can actually see those things. And it sounds really silly, but if you had closed containers and then you go put these like great, fancy coffee pods in there and all these lovely little things you're giving them, like tea bags and biscuits, can't see that, and they don't know if that's just an empty container, and you don't want to just leave those things on the side. But it makes a difference for the photos. Our photographer always takes a close-up photo of those 3 little, storage jars with those things neatly in there. Tiny thing, but again, it makes a big difference. That answers the question, will I get that stuff? So it's the thought that goes into those bits, which I think makes a difference.
Absolutely.
You can tell I love this, right? I can just talk about it all day. Nerd out on utensils and containers.
I'm learning. I'm sitting there going, good interesting. Yeah. Right, interesting. I'm just taking notes. Okay, when I go do this solid, no, I'm joking. Okay, let's leave the people with 5. If I was to go right now, let's say I just signed a rent-to-rent deal right now, 5 quick fire do's.
To get ready to
the Eve special, the Eve tips that they're just going to sit in their head all day. Okay,
go in there and get all the info you need to know in one go. So get in there once, write a list, measure for the beds, measure for everything, measure the windows for the curtains, do a full list of all the measurements and all your things you need. If there's anything unusual, like, you need to get a radiator cover over there, write all of those things down and measure all of them. So when you go home and you start planning, there's nothing that you don't know about, right? So then where will this table fit or not? It's just done. So first thing is to make sure you're not overwhelmed. Go there and do that. Sorry, it's a bit of a long one. But,
love it. Quick fire.
Yeah, it's not very quick fire, but it's useful, so it's fine.
That is useful. Number 2.
So I'll just make the rest of them fast. So do that. Number 2, obviously decide your budget and get that spreadsheet made. And don't buy anything unless it's on that list. Plan it all out before you start purchasing. Number 3, get your internet sorted. That takes time. And get your bed sorted. That takes time. So do the things that are going to take the longest first. Number 4, get your photos booked if you're confident on your timeline, because sometimes availability on that, you might be ready and then your photographer's not ready for 2 weeks and it's really annoying.
I would leave a day or 2 just to be careful.
Yeah, leave a buffer zone.
I know you want to get live making money, especially on your first rent-to-rent. Just if you cancel that and you have to reschedule it, you could lose like another week.
Yeah, so maybe do that if you're sort of confident on it. But at least maybe pencil something in with your photographer, because you don't want those things to delay you, because that gets super annoying.
You do not want that to delay you.
No.
You can't go live. You can go live with that internet, just won't be ideal, but you can't go live without photography.
Yeah. And number 5 would be get on Pinterest and just, you don't spend ages, spend half an hour and get a vibe. Plan the vibe, because if you go start buying stuff and you've not got a sort of cohesive plan of what it's going to look like, you're going to end up with a bit of a jumbled mess. So unless you've got that in your head, get on Pinterest and just plan out, what's my theme? Is it industrial? Is it nautical? Plan it. What's your colour theme? Stick with it, and then choosing things will be a lot easier, and you'll feel a lot more confident when you go and start picking decor and stuff.
I'm going to chuck in a number 6 in there, which is a little rogue one, is get a staging company to do it if you're not confident as well.
Very true.
If you're abroad or if you're far away, it's going to cost you more money. Just be aware. But they will have all the furniture ready to go, and then they will actually go set it up for you, and then you can just publish it. And sometimes they'll actually get a photographer as well. So,
we're going to hopefully, it's not confirmed yet, but we're going to hopefully have someone come on the podcast that specialises in that. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. That'd be really good.
So hopefully...
Again, I'm just going to be the interviewer, I reckon. I'm just going to be asking questions back and forth.
So what would be nice about that is she'll be able to... She's awesome. She's...
Giving a she-way. Narrowed it down.
We haven't asked her yet, I don't know.
No, we haven't. We're just assuming she'll come on it.
We'll talk to her next week and ask her, but...
If she listens to this, she's going to be like, damn it, I've been hooked in.
So if she comes on, she can then go through that perspective of how it works if you do get a stage, so you can understand that as a different option as well. So that would be useful. Yeah.
This is also an episode. I hope you guys had so much value from that. I mean, I know I have. Like, if I was starting out and I listened to this, we only learned this kind of thing from our mentorship group. So,
and just experience.
Yeah, and experience. I mean, our first one, oh my god, it gives me palpitation thinking about that. But now it's just exciting. I'm just like putting it live with the team. I'm like, oh, look at this place. Get the photos. I'm like, oh wow,
this is nice.
Sometimes I've even seen the property before, and I'm just like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So another episode done. That's episode 3. Episode 4 is, like I said, this is always going to be every Friday, 8 a.m. Everyone. This is when this podcast will be released. So put it into your calendar. It's going to be on every single streaming platform. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Spotify. It's going to be on Amazon Music. It's going to be on Apple Music,
Google,
whatever, wherever you can hear our lovely voices is going to be there. The next episode, okay, this episode you cannot miss. This is going to be deep diving into revenue management. I cannot wait to talk about this. This is going
to be the other way around.
This is going to be very technical, and we're going to go through how you get your bookings to be optimized, not just to get it at 80% occupancy, because 80% occupancy can be, it can be a myth sometimes. It's about getting it at 80% occupancy with the rates that you want, and not just having 2-3 night bookings, getting long bookings, and not just relying on those platforms that set prices. So yeah, that's a little hint of what we're going to go through next.
You tell he's excited about
I can't wait. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. So look, if you're looking to follow us, Eve, where do they find you? We're not active on Instagram as much right now. We're going to start being more active in the next coming months. I've got some exciting news going on in our life where we're looking to really push this forward even more. So yeah, Eve, what's your Instagram and what's your TikTok?
I'll put them down below because honestly, I don't use enough to know them.
I think it's Eve X Darcy.
It's Eve something Darcy.
Yeah, mine's Zach.Ratcliffe. I got 2 Instagrams, but that's the 3 actually. But
I've got 2 and people keep following me on the wrong one, so I think I'm just going to make 1 because I think it's getting confusing. But we'll put them below. We want to start sharing more stuff on there, so come follow us, keep us accountable, and make sure we're actually doing that. And we'll see you guys next week.
100%. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you're having a great morning, evening, night, whenever you listen to this, and hopefully fresh and early on a Friday morning you're listening to this.
Yeah.
First thing, 8 a.m. Remember that. All right. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll speak to you soon. This is nowhere.
It gets